so you were telling us about your wife and your family, and then also what you did for the United Nations. So can you kind of give us a recap, since, you know, we're going to start this over again today?
All right. Again, thank you for affording me this opportunity on your platform, a very rich and rewarding, life-changing platform. I follow your different podcasts, reaching out, impacting life of so many around the world. But that's the beauty of the social media. You see, I'm wearing orange today. We are celebrating the 16 days of
Oh,
activism
wow.
in Liberia. It began, and it will end on December 10th. That is Human Rights Day. So we are wearing orange in solidarity for end to female genital mutilation and other forms of violation against women and girls all around the world, not only in Liberia. So that's why we are wearing orange. And tomorrow will be our parade. So we are standing with the women. We are standing with victims, survivors, and advocates, women human rights defenders, to ensure that we can fight violence against women and girls.
Oh, wow. That's amazing. That's amazing. And I know that your wife is also very active in, in bringing awareness to domestic violence and teen dating violence. And I'm just so proud of the work that she's doing in your country.
Yeah, so come to my wife. She's very dedicated to amplifying women voices. Even this morning, she posted talking about how, you know, all women have the same agenda in terms of, you know, appreciating a space where their voices can be heard, and they can be able to impact the society in a positive way for the good of mankind. And I encourage her. She is working along with the church, and they have their own local NGO or civil society group that's bring together young women to teach them how to know their values, their human rights, and how to advocate in a more responsible manner for their rights. Because when people do not advocate in manner that is responsible and legal, it tends to breed violence, and lives get lost, and property get damaged, you know, and these things take years and forever to repair. So it's always good to teach the young people to use appropriate channel and means to advocate for their rights, and to seek justice whenever their rights are abused or violated. So that is where she found herself, along with a call of hardworking women, Reverend Barnes, a good sister of mine. These pastors, these women in ministry are trying to use not only the pulpit, but to use their influence in getting the society more responsible and more safe for us all to strive for the kind of protection and that we all deserve. So yes, my wife is doing well in that area, and as I said yesterday, my wife being a pastor, she's made great strive in terms of influencing my work here at the United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights. She serves me spiritually and as well as physically, because so her encouragement and research biblically adds to my kind of counseling and engagement with victims as well as alleged perpetrators, because we do deal with alleged perpetrators also, because they must have their day in court. And that's where we tend to be sometimes the bad guys, especially human rights officers. We work with both victims and alleged perpetrators. Our interest is that the law is applied without discrimination, and the law is applied without prejudice and transparently. So yes, with her inspiration, with her calling, she tends to guide me both spiritually and mentally in keeping focus and straight in terms of my application my duties and responsibilities.
Amen.
So
Amen. So
yeah, she
y'all make a great team.
yeah, a very great team. She, she's just an inspiration to me socially. She's kind of a different partner. I don't know if couples around the world can find the kind of happiness we find. She's my friend, and sometimes we people see us and say we resemble because we've stayed together for we've been together since 90 what 96 97.
Wow.
So it's been, yeah, since 1997 she's been my friend. uh, that's, I mean, we just like a team,
Y'all are a team.
and our children laugh when they see us sometimes play at home. We and then my children will laugh, so yeah. I do humorous both at home and as you said, my wife has a different version. She have the lovely version,
She have the lovely version.
and the lovely version. I have the more hard
Hmm.
version in terms of mhm,
Yeah, how y'all
yeah.
man?
So she would say the lovely part.
The version,
Yeah, but
yeah, the
that's
version she gives is you
yeah.
came in and you swept her off her feet.
You see, you see. So I don't know how I did that,
Oh.
but I don't know how I did that, but I know that initially, as I said from yesterday, she's from a very tough
Mhm.
family. Her father, may his soul rest in peace, was a very hard old man. Uh, you don't get around his children. He's very difficult to see boys around his girls' children. And so we were all in the church. We were afraid to get around. In Liberia, we have something called Congo
Okay.
and natives. And the Congo people in Liberia are known as those American Liberians who are educated, are very strict-minded people. They don't play around. And while the natives are those who just lose, play around. And that's how that divide was initially. It's just now many of the natives are becoming educated and fitting in, the more structured
Hmm.
society. And so even in Liberia now, if you're a native man, you get educated, they tend to refer to you as a Congo
Hmm.
man, because you don't do those things that people expect
Hmm.
you to do when you're a native man. And so that family was not a family you could just approach in terms of having a
Hmm.
relationship. And so, as I said, I don't know how I pushed my wife off her leg, but when she saw me, the world changed. And I say to her that she made me to have the trust that indeed this could be, a real relationship, because initially I felt that I was not the man for her. I was just not the class of man that she deserved, given what she had been through. But on the flip side, she saw me as that prince that
Hmm.
that could change her life. And surprisingly to me, I healed a wound that had survived for years. And today, I always say to her, and I encourage her, speak it out. When there are issues, speak it out. Share it with somebody who you can trust. We all should have a shoulder to lean on. And when she formed me as that shoulder to lean on, all the hate, all the hurt she had, I managed to work with her and it disappeared.
Oh.
Today, the individual who contributed to that hate and crime, I would call it crime, is now, a friend, a family friend. He calls her and he sees me. There is no space in our heart for hate anymore. I think we just allow God to have his will. And whatever he did to her in the past, I see it as the work of the devil, and pray that no other partner of
Hmm.
his, no other person's daughter will ever experience what he did to my wife in the past. And
Wow.
I think he's a new person. I think he's a new person, and
Wow.
God has done his
I'm
work.
just so
Yeah,
I'm just so proud to know you guys, for you to have such a heart to forgive. And I know that's so important when you've gone through so much, to be able to forgive and let God do what God wants to do. So
Definitely.
yeah, it's
That,
amazing. Y'all's story is amazing, and I'm so happy that you've been able to share it with us.
yeah, yeah. And she used that as a testimony and share it in many other gatherings, young people gathering, because sometimes you go through stuff and you think you are
Mhm.
alone going through that stuff. That leads to sometimes
Mhm.
suicide, so
Mhm.
exclusion from the society because you think you are the worst, But when you hear other stories that are worse than yours, and you get inspired, you get rejuvenated. Like, hey, I can get over
Mhm.
this. Someone else got over it before. And so I tell every woman everywhere in the world where you find yourself, what you are going through today is just a test. It's just a matter of time. There is a God who is bigger than whatever problem you are going through. He is the God of the universe. You are not even a drop of the
Mhm.
universe. You are not even a drop of the universe. So who are you that you cannot get healing and transformation from a God who owns the universe? And I think that's the kind of a big God we have, and that God is on the side of my family and on the side of your family.
Mhm.
If you can just have hope and pray and trust,
Amen.
that same God can change your situation for the better.
Amen. Now, with domestic violence and your human rights efforts, do you find a lot of domestic violence cases coming before you?
Yes, domestic violence in Liberia is a way of life. I tell you that. I don't know in many African settings, but people over the generations, over the years, believe that beating on a woman is a part of showing love. And a whole group of women, especially of the old order, believe that, hey, if your partner doesn't hit on you, he doesn't love you. Why complain? Why take him to the police? Why not compromise? I mean, he loves you. That's why he jealous you. That's why he hits on you. That's why he humiliates you. It's something that is acceptable. I mean, in many quarters, people believe that, you know, girls, children, when they get, brutalized by their partners, they go to the parents. The parents send them back to go and compromise. Hey, yeah, this is your partner. What is, about hitting you one or two times? He loves you. That's why he's jealous of you. If he doesn't love you, he won't hit on you. But that is something we need to fight in our society, and I think that's the crust of violence against women and girls in our society. People tend to compromise rape, as rape is, as inhumane, as life damaging as rape is. Families, I had an experience of a little girl in my community who is a friend of my daughter, and a young man in the community, a crowd, I'll call it, two young people, and he allegedly raped this little girl, and they were taken to the police station. And the neighbor called me, knowing that the little girl was my daughter's friend, and was crying on the phone. Oh, Mr. Nyanway, human rights, they call me human rights. Please come to the police station. And I went to the police station, and I saw the entire community at the police station. And I saw this lady crying, standing when she saw me. And I saw another group of women who are also from the community saying that, oh, the little girl, it is not her first time. She's seen all in the community with boys. So why is it she want to, lie on the other boy? Because I mean, it was so heart touching because older women, mothers, who should have been standing on the side of this little girl, were defending the boy because the boy mother was their friend, and saying that the little girl deserved what happened to her because she's always in the darkness and running around. I say, when you saw her in the darkness as a mother, why didn't you get this girl and take her back home or call her? Now the worst has happened and you are defending it, and provoking the mother of this child that, oh, take your daughter and go home, go to the hospital. Why you want to, put this little boy in problem? And I left the police station with, an information to the police officer that, hey, I don't want to get involved because it's community, but let the law take its course. There should be no compromise. Let this case go through the due process. And after some time, people in the community, this human rights guy in the community, he failed to compromise the community issue. But few months after, the same people in the community began to call me, this issue about rape in the community is getting serious. You need to call, the community together. I said, now you see, because it's coming to your doorstep. But when it was at somebody else's doorstep, you were provoking this person. So that's the Liberian society. I mean, violence against women and girls, people tend to compromise a lot. And that is actually hampering our effort to stamp this kind of a menace in our society.
So you have a lot of work to do.
A lot of work to do. From the rule of law to the society to the community. You go to the police say, the communities decided that they want to take the case home. And then if you say, no, the community cannot decide, there's an issue of violence, there's an issue of law, and then you are the bad guy. People, why, who is he? Who is he? Why does he want to prove? Why does she want to prove? So we suffered because of our people unwillingness to abide by the law, to allow, justice in cases of, abuse and violation. So that is Liberia's, cardinal problem right now in fighting violence against women and girls, rape, FGM practice, all these, dangerous, harmful practices. It's acceptable. And people believe that if you want to go against these, these negative vices, they think that you are not a Liberian, you are not a true African, you don't believe in culture, you don't believe in tradition. And that is what we are fighting right now in our society as human rights officers and human rights advocates.
Now, have you seen any progress?
Yes, we are making strides in several areas. Today, a few years ago, we could not even discuss the issue of FGM, which is one of Liberia's serious harmful practice now that we're trying from both the government, international community, and civil society standpoint to ensure that we put end to FGM in Liberia. But today we can discuss this issue along with our traditional chief and elders. Recently, there was a moratorium placed on the practice in Liberia, which we see as a big jump. Before, you could not discuss it. They'll tell you that you have not been to the bush, you don't discuss the bush matter. But if you will go to the bush, you have to be initiated. So you don't want to be initiated and you cannot discuss it because you don't want to go to the bush. So how do you remedy the situation? So right now we have our traditional leaders. They are now willing. Zoes, Bodios, elders, they are sitting around the table with human rights officers and advocates discussing what do we do with this situation. We are all accepted that the practice is inhumane. One advocate, one ideology was that we allow people of age to decide whether they want to go for the practice or not. Another group said, no, we should just abolish the entire practice because no one is willing to go for the practice. But even at your age, even if you're of age, you are compelled to go to the practice because of societal pressure, because of your tradition that tells you that you will not be allowed into your traditional hometown or amongst your traditional people or discuss issue of the community, when you are not a part of the society. And to be a part of the society is to be initiated. So we are trying to fight that balance. Should we allow people of age to go at their own volition, which is a human rights issue? If I'm of age, I can decide what I want to do with my life. Or should we put a total end to the practice, which is actually, a practice that have proven harmful to women and girls around the world, not only in Liberia. But we are getting there. Discussions are on the table. This year's 16th year of activism is dedicated to the total abolition of FGM, and we have traditional leaders being a part of the organization of the program. Legislation have been put together. Right now, we have the issue of political will. The legislators, many of them are going for election next year. They are not interested in discussing this issue because they will have to go and seek a vote from the people in the rural area. But at least the elders and traditional leaders themselves are now discussing the issue. So that's step one. I think that's progress in that area. In the area of rule of law, we've been having serious challenges, and it's from both ends. The securities are not well catered for. There are no logistics to get them in every part of the country. And so rule of law is actually being challenged in many rural areas. There are no courts. Some areas that has over 4,000 or 5,000 inhabitants have only 2 police officers. And so mob violence is the way out, or maybe a traditional remedy where we have sassewood. Do you know what they call sassewood?
No, what is that?
Okay, sassewood is when you are accused of, of committing a crime in the community, and they sometimes give you some well-prepared drink, that if you drink and you don't die, it means you are not the one who committed that crime. But if you die, well, you are the one who committed a crime. In some instances, they use hard cutlasses, and they put. Do you know cutlass?
I'm sorry. I'm looking at you like, oh my gosh, this is like.
Yeah. Yeah, but because of lack of state security in many of those communities, this is the way judgment is levied against people who are alleged of crimes. And many times we see in these areas, females are most victim of these issues. Sometimes they say maybe a woman in the community is alleged of having a relationship with somebody secretly, and without taking her through the due process, she's asked to drink something to prove her innocence. And people do not have the same system. Sometimes you drink and you okay, I drink, I die, and well, it's because I was the actual perpetrator. That's why. And so many other harmful practice. And my commitment to this tax is because of the experiences I have. When I was much younger, and I gave you the story for the listening public, we had a situation of one of my friends. He's alive today, and he works with immigration, who was alleged to have stolen a huge sum of money at night from a home. And he was asleep in that home that day. He came from out drunk, and he was asleep. In the morning, the money got missing, but he was in the home. So they brought the sassewood to take the sassewood. At this time, the sassewood was in a way that I don't know how to. A stick is laid, and you are asked to walk on the stick. So if you trip walking on the stick, you are caught as the perpetrator of this crime. So he was already drunk. He slept drunk, and so in the morning they asked him to walk on the stick, and every time he walked on the stick, he tripped. Every time he walked on the stick, he trips. So the elder who came to do this assessment said he's the criminal, and he said he was not a criminal. We tied him. I say we because I was much younger. The community tied him and beat him up and broke his tooth from his mouth, and he was really tortured. At some point in time, he accepted that, okay, I'm the one. I will go and find the money, please untie me. And while we were in the community was in the act of brutalizing this individual, a member of the community came and said, what is happening in the community? We said, oh, we caught a rogue, and this guy has stolen a bag of money. And he said, what? We said, yeah. He said, but I saw another member of the community last night at the club spending a lot of money with a bag on his back. Then we said, wow. So they got the police involved, and they went to this area where he said he had seen this guy. And this guy was arrested drunk with the money bag.
Oh my God.
And it was brought and taken to the police station. And this guy who was brutalized for being caught as the one who stole the money, we untied him and we said, we are sorry, but it was this, the elder, the Sasewu elder who found you guilty. And that was the end of the story. Today he's alive. His tooth all broken from his mouth. I know him very well. But that's the end of that story. The community just beat him up because he was found guilty.
I'm so
So
sorry.
that's the kind of practice that go on in the rural areas and many other areas around our country because of weak rule of law. Yeah.
So, do you know the population of your country?
Well, initially we had a census. The last census.
I'm here.
Hello, are you speaking?
No, I'm here.
Okay. Uh, the last census told us that we were 4.5 million uh, people in Liberia, heading to 5 million, but we were 4.5. And there's an ongoing census that is now going to give us the latest statistics in terms of how many Liberians we are. But the last one told us we were about 4.5 million population in Liberia.
So, you said there's a um, rural area. Now, as far as the city is concerned, is it more advanced? Can you hear me?
I'm not. Yeah, go ahead. Please
Okay.
repeat.
There is a rural area in Liberia. And is there a city where things are more advanced?
So yes, Monrovia is a city, and they have rural areas, a lot of rural areas. So Monrovia is advanced in terms of you know uh, rule of law, presence of national security. But Monrovia is challenged because Monrovia is overpopulated, and this is where the crime hub is. So the police are overworked in Monrovia. The state security are overworked in Monrovia. The courts are overwhelmed with cases on the docket. The prisons are overcrowded. Detention facilities are totally deplorable. So, it's multiple problem with justice in Liberia. So you go to the courts, you want to expedite cases, you cannot expedite cases. Corruption is seen all over. Why is something else by itself? We have to fight from the human rights standpoint. You go to the court to get a case filed. At least you should have a $20 United States dollar to get your case filed. How many Liberians in this poverty-stricken society will have a $20 to file a case? So people just believe that when you have somebody detained in a police facility, that's the end to it. No one follows up the case. And then at the police facility, people are overstayed in detention beyond the statutory 72 hours. And so your family comes and give the police money, and then you are let go and back in the community. And so at some point in time, the community subject itself to more violence because they know that nothing will come from the police, and they are unable to take you to court because they cannot pay for lawyers. So it's just a society that we who are human rights advocates, human rights defenders, human rights officers are trying to sensitize people to, because when we get the people aware, then the community themselves will build this mechanism, this protection mechanism, and respect for the rule of law. But as it is now, there are multiple challenges coupled with a huge corruption in our society. So uh, it's serious.
Well, we're definitely going to pray for your country. Now, do you have a university in Monrovia?
Yes, yes, we have universities in Monrovia, and we have university out of Monrovia.
So, do y'all teach human rights? Is there like a course or a department?
so human rights, we are working with the University of Liberia right now, the Office of the High Commissioner for Human Rights, to ensure that there is a full degree granting course or department, for the purpose of human rights, because human rights is just taught along as one of those courses.
Okay.
It's not a full course by itself. It's just like a lecture series in a different university. Even at the police academy, there are human rights courses being taught. While I was at OMIO, 1 or 2 classes I taught. But after you graduate from the police academy, there is no follow-up training to ensure that the discipline is sustained and instilled in the different security apparatus or security personnel. So human rights in Liberia is not real structure in terms of education, but there's a lot of awareness in the community, civil society groups, the National Human Rights Institution. There should be more done in terms of awareness and sensitization. We've just started a new round of awareness on business and human rights. This was boosted by the recent visit of the Working Group on Business and Human Rights. I supported the Working Group on Business and Human Rights. They just left. And as a result of their visit, attendance are now raised in terms of human rights violation caused by businesses, concessions. And these violations have caused much more disturbance. There have been several protests. There have been several vandalization of private property as a result of these violations. But now we are creating awareness on mechanism for redress. How can people avoid, vandalizing properties and actually seeking justice through a more organized rule of law. So yes, I'm leading that initiative at the level of the OACHR. Being the head of the development pillar, we are trying to mainstream human rights and business, because Liberia, following the crisis, Liberia is a virgin country in terms of investment. So we see that a lot of investment potential is here, and people want to come. Corruption has been one of the issues that are stopping legitimate businesses from coming. We have records that past concession agreements, hundreds of them were not actually, screened. It was brought in without any due process, and individuals bribed the system. So we're trying to work with both the state and businesses and the communities to ensure that going forward, our business climate can consider the issue of human rights as a way of legitimizing and justifying their operations in our country. Yes, we're also working on the issue of environment. We are not much in terms of pollution like the West, but there are major pollutions here in terms of the rivers, ways, because in the rural area, people depend on the waterways, and we have report of concessions here, businesses here polluting the river, and it is not direct in terms of death rate, but there are long-term consequences for people who drink from those rivers. We have a complaint just recently from the Cape Mount area of fishes dying and dogs dying from drinking the water that is being used by people to cook and drink. We also have complaints from just few miles away from us in Morovia, the cement company, where the community around the cement company, you go there vividly, Bridget, you will see people cooking, and when you put your hand on the top of the pot, you can see cement, So just to tell you that if it's on the pot, the top of the pot, that means it's being cooked in the food. And we haven't seen people dying, but we believe that there are long-term consequences for people eating cement over the years. And those are issues that we need to fight. We talk about climate change. Our beaches is vivid. When I was growing up, the water was far away from where it is now. Where we are, if you see, our ocean is far into land now. There is no control mechanism. So Liberia has multiple human rights challenges, and all we can say is that we ask our religious leaders, we ask our community leaders to get involved in human rights protection and promotion, because at the end of the day, it is human rights that matters. And what is human rights? Human rights are values. It's our values that matter. Our value as humans, or else people will few years from now, people will regret that we did not take the bull by the horn when the opportunity was there to do so.
So with you being at the United Nations, you are you like a separate entity to to the communities?
Yes, so you know the United Nations is
Hmm.
global. So I work with the United Nations Human Rights Office in
Okay.
Liberia, which is a secretariat responsible to mainstream human rights in the entire UN system. We have UN entities in Liberia, agencies, the UNDP, the IOM, the FAO, the WHO. But OHCHR is charged with the mandate of the Secretary General to guide human rights application
Okay.
globally. And so my office in Liberia is to work with the government, to work with the UN agencies, to work with the community, to work with the National Human Rights Institution, because Liberia has a National Human Rights Institution. I work with the Secretariat of the National Human Rights Institution before as the acting executive
Okay.
director. That was before the appointment of commissioners. So I have, you know, strong knowledge on the work of the National Human Rights Institution. I have established a civil society group. I work in the civil society for years, so I have a strong civil society background. And then now I'm working with the United Nations. So when I put those three qualities together, it gave me a stronger voice and stronger
Hmm.
lens in terms of, training, directing, guiding the application and the you know the dynamics of this of human rights in our society and globally.
Do you ever get to work with the United States?
Yes, the U.S. Embassy here, the embassy has a human rights unit here that the focal person of the unit here work closely with our office. And even before coming to the United Nations, when I was acting executive director at the Human Rights Commission, I was offered a training by the U.S. State Department. I went to the U.S. for a week-long training on United States foreign policy and human rights,
Wow.
and there where I got a lens of U.S. human rights
Hmm.
agenda, and how it has some global intricacy in terms of application locally as well as internationally. So, yes, I support the embassy human rights section here a lot. We have a good relationship. Their reports, they have yearly reports, and many times the embassy relate to us to review and contribute to the
Oh,
reports.
wow. That's amazing. You know, it's like I'm sitting here listening to what your country, all the different challenges that you are going through. Is there anything anyone outside of your country can do to help?
Yes, there are a lot that can be done to help. There are a lot to be. Liberia is a dependent nation, and I like to say that openly. We should be an independent nation as a nation, but given the multiple problems in our country, the multiple challenges in our country, the issue of corruption in every sector of the society, so we tend to depend on foreign aid, we tend to depend on foreign expertise, and the only way, Liberia can get there is these aids and foreign support should be tied to human rights compliance. If the world and our partners begin to do that hey, I mean, these are facts, and if you want this, you have to settle with this. And when our government start to get serious with upholding their human rights obligation of protecting, promoting, and fulfilling human rights, then the society will begin to trust. I think lack of trust contributes to the kind of violations we see and abuses we see in our society, because people don't trust the system, and the system itself is fighting against itself. Where people carry on violations and abuses without remorse, knowing that, especially when you are in a hierarchy, or you have or family or friends in a hierarchy, you just abuse people's rights, without any remorse. And so I think that if they can help us build our system, I work with the United Nations, and United Nations is trying in its own right, but I think we need to do more. We need to do more. I'm a Liberian, and I speak from a positive context, that I'm playing a double role, because I serve globally with the United Nations, and I'm a Liberian, so I see what my society lacks. I see the challenges in my society, and with my professional background in ethics, I think we can do more by first working with the top bottom top approach. While we work with the society, while we try to change the society, we should also focus on ensuring that the political will is guaranteed, that we do not play lip service with our leaders. We need to get our leaders to the table to obligate themselves to implement, to follow up on what they have signed up for. Liberia have signed almost all the international treaties, almost all. But when they come back home, that's it. I've worked with the government in preparing the Liberia first, second, and third UPR reports, the Universal Periodic Review Report. And that is a forum where nations get to review their human rights agenda and get support from the international community in addressing challenges that are identified. But every year, this very same commitment comes. It's after every 4 years, recommendations are given. There are no follow-up mechanism. We now at the UN, we are working with we just established the National Mechanism of Reporting and Follow-up to ensure that these recommendations, people do not just shelve them. People follow up on these recommendations and make good their commitment. I think these are some of our human rights challenges in Liberia. We need to get our government to, not this government politically, this government, but government as a whole, because Liberia is over 170 years old. So I'm not holding one government responsible. I'm holding the entire system that is not functional. I'm holding that system responsible. And I think we can do better by working with the system to ensure that their commitment is up.
Now, are y'all set up like the United States, where y'all have a president?
Yes, we are. Liberia is a direct replica of the United States. In fact, our constitution, many say, is a direct photocopy, copy and paste from the United States. So, unlike your federal system, I think we have a direct replica: the president, the legislature, and the judiciary, 3 branches of government.
Wow.
Separate branches of government.
Oh, I've learned so much about your country. I didn't know any of this at all. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Now I wanna move to Liberia to help you.
Come on over here, Bridget. Come on over here. Come, let's work in the community. I work with the UN, so I will shadow your work with my wife, and both of you can go out there and meet those folks out there that are yearning for education, that are yearning for awareness, and get them to understand. When people are educated, when people are aware of their surrounding, they contribute a lot to the development of their surrounding. But ignorance play a major role in backwardness of our society and our development.
So when So when your wife had the teen dating violence, that was
Yeah,
huge for you guys.
very huge. And I was not in Morovia, so I told them that whenever they have this section, they need to get us to be a part of the planning so that we can bring some human rights thematic discussion. You saw human rights a very broad field, but we need to address or discuss human rights issue that is relevant to a particular target group. And so as we go along, we are hoping that we can begin to
Mm-hmm.
mainstream human rights through doing that. We want to organize human rights clubs in schools. We started that, and that failed off over the
Mm-hmm.
years. So we want to try to you know, engineer the issue of human rights clubs in school, because that will, bring about exposing abuses in schools.
Yeah.
There are a lot of abuses in our school system, and people who wants to complain these violations do not have the avenue, do not have the platform to do so. And so many of our girls, children are exploited. Uh, One of our presidents said our school system is messy, and yeah, that was the utterance of one of our presidents, and we need to work from all aspects. I
That's
think human rights clubs in school will do that.
so okay. So I'm just so proud of what you're doing. How many people are on your
Come again?
team? How many people are
On
on your team?
Oh, in my office, you
Yeah.
mean? Um, in my office, we have three national professionals. Three national professionals. I have one of my colleagues who do monitoring, basically, of facilities. We all do monitoring, but for him, that's his focus. Monitoring prison facilities, monitoring court proceedings to ensure that human rights is captured in these aspects. I have one of my colleagues working on non-discrimination issue. She is actually our focal person on the Spotlight project. The Spotlight is an EU sponsor, UN joint EU UN project for addressing violence against women
Mm-hmm.
and girls. That is our area. And as I said, I'm mainly focused with project coordination and elaboration, monitoring, evaluation, as well as development issues, uh, business and human rights, climate change, uh, environment. Uh, that's mainly my focus, and I work also on diversity, uh, working with
You have a lot.
less fortunate groups or minority groups in seeking their rights, people with disability, LGBTI community, so that their voices can
Mm-hmm.
be heard and they can be given a safe space to live as humans. We talk about the five key basic human rights yesterday. People should be able to
Mm-hmm.
live. People should be able to have their independent opinion on life, on religion, on culture, and not to be forced or to do so. So yeah, that is where I'm working with. I've worked on project what we call the national action plan of Liberia. I supported the drafting of the first and second national action plan, working with the Ministry of Justice Human Rights section. I'm a very close focal person to that unit. We also did the Liberia, I told you, the UPR. We did the CEDAW, the Convention on the Elimination of Discrimination Against Women. We did the treaty report, and we are currently completing the treaty report for the Convention on the Right of the Child. And yes, I'm also working with the Ministry of Justice in ensuring that we complete the National Action Plan on Business and Human Rights. So we are also trying to put together some policy document that will help strengthen the
Mm-hmm.
system of promotion and protection of human rights in Liberia.
Wow. Whew. You have a lot. And you say you travel a
Yeah.
lot?
Yes. I travel around the country a lot. We have 15 counties. I have been to all the 15 counties, preaching the gospel of human rights. Yeah, preaching the gospel of human rights, and I've dealt with all kinds of people, in terms of pushing the human rights agenda. So I spend much of the time out there in the field, working with the community. And so my wife knows that, so she make sure my bag is packed just in case of emergency. I throw my bag on my shoulder and I go work.
Now, have you spoken with any other countries that have the same challenges that you have, or?
Yeah. So last year, January, I was deployed to Uganda with the SOURCE team, the United Nations Human Rights SOURCE team, to monitor the Ugandan election, to capture and report violations, possible violations that occurred during the electoral process in Uganda. And that was a very, very healthy exercise, where I got to know and apply my expertise in human rights violation that comes with election, because there are a lot of violation that comes with election in a society: illegal arrest, illegal detention, hate crime, targeted crimes, and it's a lot. So I was in Uganda, supporting the Uganda United Nations Human Rights Office in Uganda to ensure consolidation of data, because there are a lot of reports that come from the field, from civil society, other other groups reporting violation in all parts of the country. And my role there at the time, as part of my support, was to capture all these alleged violations for the purpose of follow-up, to ensure that we can follow up and see people were arrested, people disappear. How can people account for these actions? And for over a month, I stayed in Uganda, working in the community, training civil society groups in understanding how to monitor and track these violations around the community, the state.
I didn't realize human rights just was so broad.
Yeah, yeah.
Wow. Well, we.
There is there is there is no aspect of life without human
Hmm.
rights. None. Check. There is no aspect of life. Domestic at home, the rights of your children, the rights of your spouse, be it male or female. Because I give you an example of domestic human rights. I want to eat palm butter. Palm butter is a very nice soup in Liberia. You don't know palm butter. It's a very nice soup in
Okay.
Liberia, and it's from southeastern Liberia traditional food. But I don't dictate to my nurse to cook palm butter without the consent of my kids. I don't know if that's what they want to eat. So I asked them, can we eat palm butter today? That's human rights,
Hmm.
because they have the right to decide what they want to eat.
Mm.
And they say, oh, no, daddy, let's eat cassava leaf. I say, oh, we ate cassava leaf a few days ago. And they say, and we reach consensus on what to eat for that
Wow.
day. That's human rights.
So you really do practice
That's
it at home.
that's human rights. So there is no aspect of life that there is no human rights. You know, there's
Oh my
not.
gosh.
Yeah.
This has been an amazing interview, and I I don't want to let you go, but I know you have work to do, because I could sit here all day. I could sit here all day and
I,
listen to you talk about human rights and.
yeah. So what I look up to is that we can find a way to design on your podcast a time to discuss human rights from a thematic point of view. So because it's broad, so we find time maybe monthly or quarterly that you can say, today we are discussing human rights and
I would love
business.
that.
Today we are discussing domestic violence. Today we are discussing harmful practice. Today we are discussing human rights monitoring. Today we are discussing human rights in prison.
Wow.
Today we are discussing of what we call administration of justice. Then we can drive our listening audience bit by bit in understanding the entire
Oh
framework
my
of human
gosh.
rights.
Look at God blessing me right now. Oh, I would have asked you, but God is just opening doors. Thank you, Lord. I really appreciate that. And anytime you can give to us, we really would appreciate it.
No problem, no problem. I'm willing, and it was a healthy discussion with you. I am open. I love to discuss human rights. I
I
live
know
human
I could
rights.
see that in you.
I live human rights. Human rights is a way of life, and there is no profession in the world that you say it lacks human rights. And I tell people every day that human rights is not a profession. That I'm a professional human rights. Human rights is a way of life.
Hmm.
You have to live it. You have to live it. A medical doctor by profession can be a decent human rights advocate,
Amen.
because when professional nurses and doctors misapply their
Hmm.
profession, let the law take its course. That's human rights. But if you shadow their wrongdoing, then you contribute to persistent violation of rights by nurses and doctors. When a professional plumber misapply his work, allows somebody pipe to be wrongly connected, and then water runs over the person's house and destroy their property, that person should be held accountable. That's human rights. So any profession in life can be a human rights issue. When an electrician wrongly electrifies somebody's house and contribute to the burning of that person's home, that person should be held liable, because that's human rights. And I can go on listing. So human rights is not a profession, it's a way of life that a pastor, an imam, anyone can stand up for human rights, believe in human rights, and contribute towards the fight against violence.
Amen. Amen. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank
Thank you.
you,
Thank
thank
you.
you.
And I'm just so honored again that you took time to spend with us to tell us about human rights and what's going on in your country in Liberia. And guys, if you want to do anything to help um, Mr. Melvin, I seen they were calling you Melvin. Is that the name that they call you at home?
Yes, so Melvin is my widely used
Okay.
name. Uh, Daniel is many people don't call me
Okay.
Daniel. Some friends call me D Mel. My D is
Okay.
silent, so I'm D Melvin Nyanway or Melvin D Nyanway. Many people don't call me Daniel.
Okay.
Yes.
I seen that come across the screen. I was like, I hope I'm not calling him the wrong name. I kept seeing Melvin.
Yeah, I'm Daniel Melvin. So Melvin is my good calling name, and Daniel is my religious
Okay.
name because I'm in the Lions Den.
Okay. Well,
This work I do is a Lion Den.
it is.
This
You
work
really
I
are
do.
in the
And I
lion's
saw
den.
you. Yeah. And I'll leave this. The question I saw a question from you. Do criminals have human
Yes. Do
rights?
criminals have human rights?
And that question for this platform is yes. Yes. What is the right of, I call them alleged criminals, because it must be proven in a court of law. But they do have human rights because they must have their day in court. They are
Hmm.
entitled to be heard and to hear. They must hear the accusers and they must be heard. You see, sometimes we do mob violence and destroy the, alleged criminals, and the real criminal who instigated that crime is right by your side,
Mm.
and in fact contribute towards the elimination of that criminal because he or she doesn't want the real story out. And so for us as human rights professionals, we say let the criminal, even arrested committing the crime, let that criminal be heard and let him hear his accusers. And when that is done, let justice take its course.
Amen.
Thank
Well, thank you so much. And give your beautiful wife a hug and a kiss for me. And we really, really appreciate you. And we're going to be reaching out to you to set up something for the future. Um, Hopefully, we can
Yeah.
start this in January.
Beautiful.
That would be great.
Beautiful. We found the time.
Oh, I
We can
have the time.
we can
If
do
you have the time, I have the
it.
time.
Together we can.
Thank you so much. And guys, you have been listening
Thank you.
to Morning Soulshine with Bridget. We have had the honor of interviewing Mr. Daniel Melvin Nyanway. And oh my goodness, he has been wonderful. He is a human rights officer for the United Nations of Liberia, and he is going to be back with us hopefully in January. We're going to do something more often where we can bring awareness to human rights. And so, guys, thank you so much. Thank you, Mr. Nan. Is it Nyanway?
Yes, it's Nyanway. The N, it's like
Nyanway.
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 Nyanway. Yes,
Well,
yes.
thank you so much, and we really appreciate you. God bless you.
Thank you, Bridget. Have a
You
blessed day.
too. So you probably gonna have to disconnect us.
Yes, and to my own listening audience, thank you all for joining. I was with Bridget, a very wonderful, passionate, uh, wonderful person who's fighting to contribute to the change of our society. She has a program, Sunshine,
Morning Soulshine.
Morning Sunshine. You can click on to her podcast. That's wonderful experience and wonderful life-changing stories. And you too could contribute your story. You have a story, and that story can change someone's life. Have a blessed day.
God
Thank you.
bless you.
Goodbye. Bye-bye.